Last week, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mximum Venom got outvoted in favor of doing Star Wars Mximum Venom. But it seemed like a lot of people still wanted me to do a Ninja Turtles focused episode, and, well, heck, I wanted to do a Ninja Turtles episode. So I thought instead of venomizing them, why not take the Ninja Turtles and turn them into a whole bunch of different kinds of monsters, like making one a kaiju and one a dragon turtle, and, well, let's just get into it. You'll see what I end up doing with them. Let's go. Hit like if you want, subscribe if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show. On a world very similar to our own, there had been a company in Japan called Oraku Industries, whose factory created some incredibly toxic chemicals as a byproduct of their main production. Instead of paying to properly dispose of it, they dump it into oceans or rivers or lakes, anywhere they could to avoid paying the price of creating it. Little did they know, though, just how dangerous this substance really was. One batch of the chemicals ended up in the home of some Japanese pond turtles and rapidly mutated them. One began to grow at a horrific and incredible rate. The shell on its back became jagged as its form altered into a bipedal beast with colossal fists. Finally, a set of tri-pronged bones sprung from its tail. By the time it ceased growing, the beast was over 300 feet tall. It descended on Tokyo in a blind animalistic rage, smashing every building it crossed. It's still unknown to this day if the creature somehow understood how it had been transformed, or if this was just Mother Nature fighting back, but the creature found its way to Oraku Industries and leveled its factory. But that wasn't the end of the creature's rage. And on top of that, its destruction of the factory had sent more toxic waste flying across the city, some even getting onto the creatures of the Ueno Zoo, such as the rhinos and warthogs. The kaiju needed to be stopped. Luckily, one brilliant scientist by the name of Donna Takagi had a plan for what to do. But we'll get back to him later. Now for this video, there were two drawings that I was really excited to do. This one and the next one that I'll show. And for this, what I really wanted to do was make this the best kaiju drawing I've ever done. Which, admittedly, isn't super hard to do because I haven't drawn a ton of kaijus before. Even on this channel, I think I've only done 2 videos, and I'm not hugely fond of either of them. I mean, one just because it's really old. For the time, I liked how it turned out. It was the Disney Princesses as Kaijus episode, but that was a long time ago. My art style has evolved a lot since, and I know I can do a lot better now. The other was the Apex Legends characters as Kaijus episode, and that one was just, yeah, I didn't really love how any of the designs in that turned out. So this one I was like, I'm going with some of my favorite proportion kind of stuff that I think will work well for a kaiju. Giant fists and forearms, tiny little head, I gave it some creepy little beady eyes. Its mouth is a little bit of a wonky shape, but I think that actually kind of works for a kaiju style monster. And then for the shell on its back, I was taking inspiration from alligator snapping turtles, who do kind of have spiky shells, and I think they're the coolest and most menacing looking kind of turtle. Really pleased with this one. It turned out pretty much exactly as I was hoping it would, and I hope you all like it as well. And we'll get back to the character that defeats him later on. Mikey was your average carefree teenager. He loved skateboarding and karate and had a slightly unhealthy obsession with pizza. One thing he didn't love, though, was fishing, but he still did it with his dad every summer as a father-son bonding event. Every year they'd find a different place to fish to try and make it a little more exciting. This year they were going to a foggy and somewhat eerie swamp. The fish weren't plentiful, but the atmosphere was at least interesting. Mikey sat, somewhat bored, holding his pole, waiting with his feet dangling just above the water. For a moment, his dad went back to the car to see if he had any tweezers, as he'd gotten a splinter in his hand from the dock. And in that moment, something happened. Something that would seem fairly innocent, but would have terrible consequences. The head of a snapping turtle sprung from the water and chomped onto Mikey's foot. He yelped and leapt up, grabbing the wound. He angrily swung his rod at the turtle, but it descended back into the depths of the swamp. The bite wasn't deep, but had punctured skin. Mikey limped back to the car and his dad bandaged up the wound, but didn't think it was worth abandoning the day over. They finished fishing and headed back to the city. For a week or so, all would seem normal. The wound would heal, and the event would make for a fun story for him to tell his 3 closest friends. But then, the night of the full moon came. As Mikey tried to sleep that night, moonbeams sprung through his window and activated a transformation. Mikey fell out of bed in agony to see that his skin was shifting into a leathery, sickly green. Something seemed to be growing from his back, and his head warped as his jaw extended. By the time the transformation had finished, Mikey was no longer in control. His mind had been overtaken by the curse of the were-turtle. He leapt through his window, scrambling up the side of his family's condo building, and was off into the night. For whatever reason, he went to the homes of his 3 closest friends and bit all of them before fleeing again to wreak havoc on an unsuspecting city. He'd remember nothing the next morning, but by the following night, the transformation would happen again, and the city would have to deal with not 1, but 4 of these cursed beasts. Now, I don't really know why I was so into the idea of doing a were-turtle, but I don't know, I just really was. I thought it would make for a fun drawing and a good contrast to the massive kaiju doing a smaller kind of character. I mean, I didn't really have to change too much stuff up because, you know, the Ninja Turtles kind of already look like what a were-turtle would look like. Just had to make it a bit more menacing, add some ripped clothing onto it and stuff. I did notice that this drawing feels a little bit too similar to the kaiju drawing, so for the next 2 I wanted to make sure to change things up a lot more, but considering the ideas I had for the next 2 drawings, I didn't think that was going to be too much of a problem. Anyway, hope y'all like this weird were-turtle. Here's the finished result. Now, technically the next drawing doesn't exactly fit into the monster theme for this video, but hopefully people are gonna like it anyway, and it ties into this kaiju story. By the way, this drawing and some of the other ones from this video are going up as posters on my Teespring store. I'll link them in the pinned comment on this video. But anyway, let's jump right into this next one. It had been a week since the turtle kaiju had begun its raid on Tokyo. The military had managed to slightly ward it off, but the country was still impatiently waiting for someone to do something more permanent, as more and more beasts were starting to spring up. Don Atakaji had luckily been working on something prior to the kaiju's attack that could help. He was a mechanical engineer specializing in robotics for military purposes. He'd proposed a project many times that had always been rejected, to build a massive mechanical warrior that could be controlled by a single soldier to serve as the ultimate intimidation, warding off any who'd consider striking against them. It had been considered a ridiculous endeavor, but now seemed their only option. Luckily, Atakaji had already begun building a prototype. With added resources from a desperate military, he quickly pieced together the rest of the mech. Being the only one who fully understood the intricacies of it, Don claimed he'd have to pilot it himself. An arrogant general would try to push past him, thinking they needed a soldier, not a scientist, at the helm. But Don immediately flung the general to the ground and pinned him. While Don was a nerdy inventor, he was also well trained in martial arts, and was exactly who they needed running this mech. He took command and stormed in after the turtle kaiju. It was a tougher fight than he'd anticipated. The kaiju was surprisingly agile and nimble for a creature so large, but it was no match for human ingenuity. Don didn't manage to kill it, but at least forced it out of the city, pushing it towards the ocean. That wouldn't be the last they'd see of the beast, and there were many more to come, but in the least, humanity now had a fighting chance. Don returned to the base and began building a set of 3 more mechs to join in the fight for humanity. Now, doing the Ninja Turtles as giant mechs and robots and stuff was the other idea I'd been battling with for today's episode, and I ended up deciding that I liked the monsters idea more, but once I was planning out some of the drawings, I was like, you know what, I feel like people won't mind too much if I work one mech into this, especially if I can tie it in with one of the other monster stories. And, you know, something like Mechagodzilla kind of counts as a monster, so, you know, giant robot kind of fits the theme. Anyway, for this one, I was taking lots of inspiration from Jaegers in Pacific Rim specifically. There were some other things I was looking at, like I was looking at some Gundam designs, but Pacific Rim was really the main inspiration. I mean, obviously, besides Donatello being one of the main inspirations as well. Overall, I don't really have too much to say about the design of this one. I like how it turned out, it's kind of cool. One of my more simple robot mech kind of designs, but I think it kind of works for this piece. Also, as I was finishing this piece, I realized that I'd drawn him in basically the exact same pose that I did my Elsa as a Marvel villain drawing in my last video. I mean, I tend to repeat poses a bunch, but I try to not do it in such rapid succession. Anyway, hope you all like how this drawing turned out. Here's the finished result. There is a species of dragons roaming around my world that I've yet to discuss, and that is the dragon turtle. First sightings of this breed of dragon were recorded in China, but there have since been many variations found of these creatures around the world, including a few in the Americas. The one we look at today is the bladed dragon turtle. These creatures are distinct in the dragon turtle family for many reasons, but the most apparent is the sword-like blades that spring from their elbows and heads. They also have a uniquely blue shell, as well as blue stripes running along their arms, tails, legs, and head. These dragon turtles are also incredibly agile for their species. Many dragon turtles, as you might expect, are slow and lumbering creatures, but the bladed dragon turtle is able to leap distances of up to 40 feet, and can run up to 50 miles per hour. They will even be found protecting other dragon turtles from prey, and are seen by some as leaders of the dragon turtle species, shepherding their own kind across the land. As with many of their kind, dragon turtles are not commonly hostile towards humans, but if you threaten others of their kind, they will not hesitate to make quick work of you with their teeth, claws, or titular blades. Now, for Leonardo here, I hadn't actually planned on doing a dragon turtle at first. Like, I'd considered that, but I thought it might end up looking too much like my Raphael kaiju turtle thing. So I decided instead to draw some kind of dinosaur Leonardo hybrid thing that was kind of a T-Rex. That's not what you're seeing on screen here now, and I just hated the result so much. Like, it's been a very long time since I drew something on the channel that I disliked so much that I had to, like, redo that drawing entirely and just scrap it. But with this one, I had to make an exception because I was like, nope, this is hideous. And maybe I'm being too hard on it, but I mean, I'll show it up on screen now. Yeah, just like the rendering is okay, but the design itself I think is just so ugly. Really don't like it. And the dragon turtle here isn't one of my favorite dragon designs because, you know, I had to kind of rush it a little bit, was having a little bit of a hard time with the pose. I was a bit behind schedule because I hadn't planned to do 5 drawings for this episode, but it at least turns out a lot better than that weird T-Rex monstrosity. Really didn't like that one. Also, I guess final note for this episode, for this character and for the kaiju one at the beginning, I was taking some inspiration from this model of a Tarrasque that I got from Thrill Studios recently that I'm painting up to look like Greymon. And I'm realizing recently that I think I might like the design of Greymon from Digimon as much as I like the Rhino from the Spider-Man PS4 and PS5 games. I think Greymon is just such a cool design. I mean, I love T-Rexes and tigers, and it's kind of just a fusion of those two things. That's an unnecessary tangent, so let's take a look at the finished result of this drawing. Well, I think this definitely takes the place of my best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode. I mean, I think I've only done like 3 on the channel before. Last year I did one fusing them with Power Rangers characters, and the year before that I did one of them as Jedi. That one's super old now though, I don't even know if it's worth going back to. But anyway, I'm definitely happy to work with them again. Give me some other ideas in the comments for what else I could do with Ninja Turtles. But anyway, if you like the monster kinds of videos, I got a whole world of monster videos on this channel. Recently did the Beast Chronicler, an original story in my monster world. Got a whole bunch of turning stuff into dragons videos, and just some cool videos of turning stuff into beasts or creatures or any other kind of word for monster, really. But that's all for today. I'm Christian Pearson. This has been PopCross Studios, home of the nerdiest art videos on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I will see you all in the next video on Friday. Goodbye.